Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This is for UFC Vegas 22. I'm Paul Shaughnessy, joined in studio by Cody Saftic. Remember to give the episode a like, smash the like button, as Mayo says, do all that good stuff. Subscribe to all of our outlets. What's the new one there, Pat?
Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, the Mix, short form, Mad Lab, and his hilarious pal will be breaking down the main event. And then Brett Apley on Friday will have all of the DraftKings picks for this UFC card. Also, if you want $100 for something like takes you 30 seconds, hit the description of this video and podcast. There's a new podcast from Mayo Media Network. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, do that right now. That's step one. Step two, if you listen to the show on Apple Podcasts or you just have an iPhone or access to iTunes, go leave a 5-star review for Fantasy Baseball Picks and Bets. I don't give a shit if you listen to it or not. Just leave the fucking review. Something you enjoy. It can be very generic, like, hey, I like this show. You should listen. Leave your Twitter handle or email address. We're doing a draw on Monday. Whoever I pick gets $100, and that will legit take you 30 seconds. So, if you lose money with Paul and Cody's picks, you can win it back by leaving an iTunes review.
Don't put that evil on me.
Jesus.
But yeah, that's why we like having Pat here, because you get, I'm horrible at reading all of these promos and stuff like that. He's all over. He's on top of it. I just basically threw him off the top. How are you doing?
Yeah, well, obviously he knows all the promos, and that's not our thing. Our thing is talking fights.
Free money
St.
if you don't
Patrick's
want
Day, my man Paul Shaughnessy, he shows up a full green getup, so I got to respect that. We're gonna have a couple beers on the show, and yeah, you guys are Irish, so I suppose St. Patrick's Day. Irish Canadian, but your last name's Shaughnessy. I mean, that's. If you throw an O and
we
apostrophe
dropped the
in
O
there.
so that the Brits over here would give us jobs back in the 1800s.
It's funny you say that. So my great-grandfather, Croatian, when he came over, they had to change the name a bit because it was too Slavic, and I couldn't get a job. Yeah.
Classic, yeah.
Immigrant mentality.
The history of time.
That's the history of Canada.
Damn Brits.
Yeah, but we got a fun little card here that we can talk about on St. Patrick's Day, have fun with, hopefully find some winning spots. Last week was a better result in terms of, winning picks, but my God, Jonathan Martinez, that was clearly the apple pie shitter, and hard to hate on Davey Grant because I like the guy, but he didn't even attempt any takedowns. He just stood and banged and knocked him the fuck out.
I thought Davey Grant potentially could be like a value play on it.
I got dropped in the first, too.
Not gonna lie, man. Did not see that one coming. That result, did not see it coming.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And this is how betting goes, eh? So the first round, he drops Davey Grant. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. I got the over 1.5, too. And then in the second round, so then it's like, man, he should have knocked him out in the first round. But you're always trying to hit a prop and a straight-up pick. It doesn't always work. But anyways, like I said, we got a fun offering here. The problem is like the lines that you do like are absolutely steamed. And there are some fun underdogs, but like which ones are we going to key in and lock in?
Some. I got some plus money plays on this one. I ain't scared. But we start out with Kevin Holland taking on Derek Brunson in the main event. Kevin Holland minus 170 favorite. Derek Brunson can be had for plus 150. Kevin Holland, I think, at least in the last year, no person has cost me more money than Kevin Holland. I always fade him. I think about his fights when he was 25 years old, still learning the ropes, I think. And it's, bloodbath. I mean, the Jacare fight, I felt really, really smart. Jacare took him down. Oh, my God. And then he knocks the damn guy out from his back. Hell of a punch. The ability to extend that much while on your back.
5th win of the year.
Yeah, he had a hell of a 2020, and me fading him, it was painful. Then we got Brunson here. Apparently, Brunson, he threw out the narrative into the sphere there, where he's 5-0 in Vegas. I don't know who he's taking on in Vegas, but just an interesting stat. I'm sick of fading Kevin Holland and him costing me money. I think the holes are there, but this is a 5-round fight. What's Derek Brunson going to do? Take him down for 5 rounds? Maybe. It's possible. But Kevin Holland showed that he is very, very well equipped on the ground. He's a black belt in BJJ. I think he can stay out of trouble there. And when they're on the feet, the longer, more precise strikes are coming from Kevin Holland. I don't think this line is out of whack at all. I see a lot of people taking a shot on Brunson. I think Kevin Holland by knockout, I see it at plus 150. If I had to take a shot, that's what it would be, because we haven't seen Derek Brunson's chin issues show up in a while. And I think Kevin Holland's the guy who could who could get that to reemerge. So Kevin Holland by knockout, but haven't made a bet on it. What about you?
Okay, so I'm a little bit worried here. I mean, you look at Derek Brunson, and first and foremost, let's talk about his chin issues because, yeah, dude has been knocked out. Dude always lives his chin so far up in the air, bun rushing forward on a straight line. Doesn't work out for him. Then you look at his losses, right? So his last loss, which is 3 years ago against Israel Adesanya, who knocks him out. Jacare Souza knocks him out. Both legends. Anderson Silva, he got robbed in a decision. Robert Whittaker, a former champion, a legend in the division, knocks him out. Yoel Romero, absolute legend in the division. He took down Yoel Romero multiple times in that fight. And eventually gets knocked out.
He won the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, he gets knocked down in the third. Then he lost to Jacare again. And then his first career loss, which is the Kendall Grove fight, Show Fight 20, the biggest robbery you have ever seen in your life. So what I'm saying is he's lost twice to Jacare. He's lost to Yoel Romero, Robert Whittaker, Anderson Silva, and Israel Adesanya. Well, does he have chin issues, man? Or is it just like, yeah, all right, when you fight top 3, top 5 guys, they're going to catch you. Those guys are beating him.
I mean, him against Adesanya. And now I know you're talking about the middleweight champion, but him just barging forward, chin up in the air.
He always does that. He always does that.
No, I know, but that could be a
him?
problem against Kevin Holland, who's
Right.
gonna sit back and counter strike.
Absolutely. But then you look at Kevin Holland, the one issue that he has, his primary issue is his takedown defense. So as long as he is in his physical gifts and his power and all these different things, the Jacare fight, Jacare goes 2 for 2 on takedowns, right? Takes him down easy the first time around. Second time around, he's tired and he's hurt. He still manages to take him down. And then he gets knocked out on the ground, but that's neither here nor there. So he gives up 2 takedowns to Jacare. Charlie Ontiveros is not shooting a takedown nor completing shit. No. You throw and you say you like to fade Kevin Holland. Even you didn't fucking fade him.
No, not there.
Right. Darren Stewart takes him down 3 times. Loses a split decision. And Kevin Holland looks tired in the 3rd round. And so there's another issue. Beats Charlie quick. Beats Jacare quick. The Joaquin Buckley fight, he actually looked pretty good there. But Joaquin gave up a good count of himself in the first round anyways. You go back to, say, I don't know, Alicio Di Chirico takes him down twice. Brendan Allen takes him down twice. Gerald Mearshart takes him down 6 times. Thiago Santos took him down 3 times. I just mean there's like a whole history of it. And I was only 28. Just got awarded his BJJ black belt. And there's no doubt he's crafty off his back now. But the takedown defense still is an issue. And one thing about Derek Brunson is like he's completing takedowns. It's honestly roles reversed. Every single Derek Brunson fight, he's scoring takedowns on his opponent. And that's prevalent in the Shabazian fight, where again, he's the underdog in the Shabazian fight. He goes in, he's not expected to do much, but the takedowns are there. Takes him down 4 times. The fight before, Ian Heinisch takes him down twice. The fight before, Elias Theodorou takes him down 4 times. The wrestling's there for him versus Kevin Holland, takedown defense is kind of an issue. If the fight stays standing, he's knocking out Brunson. But if Brunson just goes and takes him down, rinse, repeat for a couple of rounds, and then Kevin Holland's tired, well, then the knockout, chances are, doesn't come as much. Is he going to throw up a submission on Brunson? Brunson never been submitted, right? So it's hard to tell. And if this was a 3-round fight, I would have already pulled the trigger. But it's a 5-round fight. Brunson's got cardio issues himself. So again, he's 37 years old. He isn't the athlete that he used to be. And his chin is still way up in the air. Whereas Kevin Holland actually won Fighter of the Year, I'm pretty sure. Had a tremendous 2020. Knocks out another aged legend in Jacare. But, if you want to play MMA math, like Jacare at his best, he's on the backswing. But here's a guy that beat Brunson twice and was just a higher class fighter. Brunson, he's scraping up wins over Elias Theodorou, Ian Heinisch, and like a 22-year-old Edmund Shabazian. Mm-hmm. So he's not exactly beating these high-end guys as well. We've seen him struggle when he gets to the upper echelon. It's whether or not Kevin Holland's there right now. So in a 5-round fight, I am going to go with Kevin Holland. But I'm not going to go big on this one. Even though it's the main event, it's a fun main event. I like Kevin Holland. Is that Brunson poses a lot of serious problems. Mm-hmm. And for the people that are backing Brunson, I think you are on the right track. He's got to use that wrestling, and he's got to tire this guy out. When you look at Kevin Holland's entire run, it's first-round finishes, so you're not seeing the tiredness, and the takedown defense is still poor. So if he can replicate the same thing that Darren Stewart did, but there's an extra 2 rounds, maybe he takes advantage. It's just, I don't know. I will lean Holland because of the 5-round nature of it, but Brunson's a live dog in my opinion. And for that over 2.5, I like it as well because I think Brunson will take him down a few times. It's that, Kevin Holland will survive and he will throw a lot off his back. He will attempt some submissions, but he'll throw elbows. He'll throw punches. He'll try to scramble. He'll work and he'll hurt Brunson. And then the next round starts and he's back up again and hopefully take advantage. Where Shabazian just folded, he had no experience. This motherfucker fought more times than Shabazian has almost in his entire career in the last year. That's a joke. Shabazian's got more than 5 fights, but I'm saying way more experience for Kevin Holland. So I will ever so slightly lean with him.
We got my guy, Gregor Gillespie, returning from a 2-year layoff after getting knocked out by Kevin Lee. He's minus 245, taking on Brad Riddell, who can be had for plus 215. I mean, I was so high on Gregor Gillespie, and I still am pretty high on him. The problem is he's 33 years old at this point. I mean, it doesn't seem like the guy really loves to fight. I'm already in on it. I took minus 175 last week before the line started creeping up. I still think that the level of wrestling we're dealing with a guy like Gregor Gillespie is just so elite. And you look through his Instagram, it looks like he's spending a lot of time, like the last 4 months, it looks like he's been spending time in the gym. He's been going on hikes with his girlfriend. It looks like he lives an active lifestyle, at least. He's not just like gone fishing the entire time. There's a lot of videos of him in the gym. He looks like he's in great shape. I mean, I think when you have a guy with this level of wrestling, it's rinse and repeat. He just can't get knocked out by Brad Riddell, and Brad Riddell's not the craziest potent finisher or anything like that. Gregor Gillespie, you can parlay him up. I hammered it at minus 170, which I like it obviously more than minus 245, but I still think Gregor Gillespie's the truth. I think he's kind of let his career get away from him a little bit, but it is what it is. I think the guy would prefer to be a professional fisherman than a fighter, but he's just so good at this that he continues to do it. Pat?
Who was the guy that I sent you the Instagram photo of last night that's training with Jordan from the challenge?
Oh, that was Ben Askren, who's supposed to be taking on
Logan Paul?
No, he's taking on Jake Paul. I mean, the fact that he was going frolfing.
Was Mike Perry?
He was going frolfing with Jordan from the challenge. Pat's like, oh, look who's training together. I'm like, oh, God. Ben Askren's going to get knocked out now. I'm starting to think.
Jordan is one of the best athletes in the history of the world.
Yeah, but they're playing frolf, and this guy's getting ready for a fist fight with a YouTube star.
How easy do you think Frisbee golf is for Jordan, who has one hand?
Ben Askren looked a little out of shape, too. He's spending more time dealing with Litecoin or whatever crypto he's into.
I'll tell you something, Pat Mayo.
Training.
There's a guy.
He's doing something.
There's a guy we're going to talk about later on the card, Jesse Strader, and he is Aaron Carter's boxing coach.
Ooh.
And Aaron Carter is getting ready for a fight with Lamar Odom. So I will let you be the judge of that one.
Does the winner get paid in crack?
Is that actually a thing that's happening?
That's what my information is leading me to. Yeah. Well, the Aaron Carter thing, I don't know if the fight will actually materialize, but that's what I'm hearing. But yeah, Jesse Strader. And then you see he's a plus 550 underdog, and you start to understand why.
Yeah, he must be horrible.
But anyways,
we got Gregor
we're
Gillespie.
on the co-main. Yeah.
Wait, who you got? What are you thinking here?
Okay, so again, and it's kind of similar to the main event. Gregor Gillespie's got the tools with the wrestling, like Derek Brunson. He's just got to stick to the game plan. Again, he's made a career out of this. All of his fights, the Yancy Medeiros fight, 6 takedowns. Vince Pichel, your boy, 7 takedowns. Jordan Rinaldi only needed 1 because he punched him out on the ground. Jason Gonzalez, 4. Glyco Fraca, 5. When he wrestles, you've mentioned it. He's second to none. He's a former D1 All-American. He's a former national champion. He's a guy that would have been considered one of the best to do it, if not for the fact that he wrestled in the same weight class as Jordan Burroughs. Mm-hmm. So, the best to do it. So, yeah, Gregor Gillespie got pretty high in his wrestling career, and the natural transition has come to MMA, but he's got good hands. And the one area where that cost him was the Kevin Lee fight, because that was the one time he didn't try to wrestle. He went out there and was just kind of like, well, this guy knows how to wrestle too, so I'll use my hands. It's like, it doesn't matter if he knows how to wrestle.
In his training videos, I see him, and he's got his hands up all the time. Now, that could change once they get into the cage, but if he doesn't get knocked out, he should be able to get these takedowns,
You want to know something interesting as well? So, for Kevin Lee's the biggest 155-pounder you've ever fucking seen, right? Dude moves to 170, right? And then he loses to Rafael Dos Anjos at 170. And says, I'm going to come back down to 55. Comes back down, beats Gregor. And then his very next fight at 55, he misses weight again against Charles Oliveira, 158. And surely he's going to go back down to 170 now. Just what I'm illustrating is huge 55. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he boots you lopside the head. You've got a serious problem on your hands. But against a guy in Brad Riddell who seems like he could make 145 pounds, right? He's not the biggest guy. He doesn't have the biggest amount of pop.
Both of them probably could. They're both the same size, 5'7". Similar type of reaches, same kind of body type between the two of these guys here.
Yeah, but I would just favor Gregor Gillespie and going out there and being the more physical guy and being able to take down Brad Riddell. So this is classic style versus style. You have a kickboxer in Brad Riddell versus the natural wrestler in Gregor Gillespie. The difference is you have a very good striker in Brad Riddell versus the best wrestler in Gregor Gillespie. Like, you're a Khabib fan, you're a huge Khabib fan, and really the only argument that you've ever come up with for anybody is for someone who could potentially fight Khabib up until the Kevin Lee loss, I suppose.
Yeah,
now it's like it's off the table. It's off the table now.
Yeah.
But prior to that, and it wasn't like, oh, well, he's got this and he's got that. It was just like he's the only guy that could theoretically stop the takedowns.
Exactly.
Right? Only reason. So Khabib not in the way, this guy fighting run-of-the-mill challengers, and that's his issue. So he's 33 years old, and to this point, he's fought absolutely nobody, right? He fought Glyco Fracca in his debut, no longer with the promotion. He was the underdog in that spot, and then you never got a good price on again. But Andrew Holbrook, no longer with the promotion. Jason Gonzalez, not there. Jordan Rinaldi, not there. Vince Michelle, our boy, but, favorable matchup for him. Yancy Medeiros, come on. Good fighter, I believe, still with the promotion, but just bad style clash. And then loses to Kevin Lee. The first time he really did step up. The difference there is Kevin Lee's a jack of all trades. He can strike, he can wrestle, he can grapple. He's got a BJJ black belt. He's a very high level experience. He's massive for the weight class. Those are all X factors. Those are all variables. You lose a fight there. 2-year-long layoff. Yeah, 2-year-long layoff. I don't like that, right? But if you go out there and you wrestle Brad Riddell, then there's the recipe. So again, I hate always just talking about, well, this guy takes guys down in all of his fights and the numbers. But really, that's what it comes down to. Jamie Malarkey took down Brad Riddell 3 times. Magomed Mustafayev took him down 8 times. Mind you, he always did pop back up when Mustafayev took him down. I'll give him that. But 8 takedowns given up. And then the Alex De Silva fight his last time out, he still managed to get taken down 3 times. Mm-hmm. No doubt his takedown defense is getting better. But similar to Israel Adesanya's takedown defense is getting better. It doesn't mean Jan can't just plow him to the ground because he's the bigger, stronger, better wrestler. And in this case, we got the bigger, stronger, better wrestler in Gregor. And the last thing is for Gregor, like you said, keeping up his hands, working on the striking. He's cleared the cobwebs. He doesn't want to get caught again. But if you were a guy that wrestled your entire life and you were considered one of the best wrestlers, right? And you had just gotten knocked out, and this is your return fight, wouldn't you just go right back to what got you here and just wrestle?
My money hopes he does.
Yeah, for sure. So the over 2.5 is -110. I like the over 2.5. And then I would take Gregor Gillespie, and I would take Gregor Gillespie by decision. I think that Brad Riddell's a tough son of a bitch, a guy that will get taken down and will continuously work to get back up, but he's not going to get TKO'd, not going to get submitted. So I see this one going the distance.
You could get submitted down there?
Definitely could get submitted. I just mean, I like Brad. Brad's a guy that's worked a lot on his grappling because he's such a dynamic striker. Most guys do want to take him down. That you see in all these fights, he's getting taken down, but he works to get himself back up. And remember Kaikara France against Bontarin, 2 weeks ago now? It was like, oh, he's dead. And it was like, oh, we fought the hand. Oh, he's dead. Oh, whoa, we fought the hand again. It was like, that guy's rear naked choke, defense was unbelievably good. And it's, again, he spends a lot of time working on his submission defense because he knows he's going to be spending a long time on the ground in fights. That's where guys were going to want to get them. City kickboxing, right? The path to beating these guys, hopefully, take them down, right? That's what you want to do. If he could avoid that, he'd have a lot of success here. I think it's a real tough ask to be taking on Gregor Gillespie and trying out your newfound takedown defense. Like, that's a tough go. So I'll take Gregor by decision. The over 2.5, though, -110. That looks like the best angle here.
Gregor on DraftKings.
I think
he's 9K.
Especially because Brad gets back up, and then he'll get taken right back down.
Yeah.
And just,
and the control
points.
time and stuff that you've got on the new DraftKings scoring. Gregor Gillespie is literally the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to DraftKings, except for Kevin Lee. Pat, you look like you had something to say?
Yeah, Gillespie by decision is +230. Gillespie inside the distance is +130.
Again, and why I like that is when you look at
a lot of the other guys.
Yes, but like we talked about, Holbrook, Jason Gonzalez, Jordan Rinaldi, Vince Pichel, Yancy Medeiros, he's finished those guys. Kevin Lee was like, ooh, this guy doesn't look as good as I thought. Now he's taking a 2-year-long layoff, and now he's coming back and is probably going to hopefully take the safe route and just hold this guy down, wrestle and hold this guy down. Flip side to that with Brad Riddell, it's like, okay, well, when was the last time he's been finished? He got submitted 3 years ago. Since then, has he fought in great guys? Maybe not necessarily, but I think he's grown a lot. He was a one-dimensional kickboxer who was 24. Now he's a well-rounded martial artist who's 29, has 3 fights in the UFC. Like, I think he's gotten a little bit better. But to save myself, that's why I like the over 2.5. That, like, even if Gregor just grinded this guy and submitted him late, maybe I could get away with it. And if Gregor, for whatever reason, got tired himself and got caught late, I hopefully would cover that as well. But You can make a case for a lot of these underdogs, but I think I'm going to and unlike the Brunson fight where I was like, every round starts standing, rounds are going to happen, Kevin Holland's going to have his shot. Like, I don't think Brad Riddell has the one-punch power like Kevin Holland does to turn this fight around. I think if anything, he'd have to hurt Gregor and then work him over. But if Gregor goes in there with the proper game plan to wrestle, this should be his.
All right, we got Tai Tuivasa taking on Harry Hunsucker. This fight was just booked literally moments before we went on the air, so there's no line or anything on this fight. Hunsucker, you may remember from Dana White's Contender Series, making Jared Vanderaa look like the future heavyweight champion of the world. He's taking on the shoey master, Tuivasa. I mean, what do we think here? I think Tuivasa is probably going to be like minus 400, minus 500. This is, hey, who's hanging around here that's willing to take a fight on 3 or 4 days' notice at heavyweight, and Tuivasa is willing to take on with no notice. Harry Hunsucker. Surprised that he got here, but Tuivasa is going to be a massive favorite. Another guy on DraftKings now, he just became the overwhelming chalk. He's 8,900 because he was set up to fight Dante Mays. Tuivasa by knockout, I think is probably where your head would be at here.
Yeah, Tuivasa by knockout, under 1.5. I mean, those are the only real ways to look at it.
We don't even have prices on them, but...
No, Tai Tuivasa is supposed to take on Dante Mays, and as much as we can love knocking Tai Tuivasa for some of his antics inside the cage, one, he is a great athlete for a 265-pound man, former professional rugby player, and moves extremely well. Is he very green? Yeah. Does he have poor ring IQ? Yeah. But there's no doubt that there's some talent there. UFC kind of rushed him along a little bit. I mean, he gets the Andrei Arlovsky treatment, and he's one of those young prospects that actually goes on and beats him. And then they jump him into a fight with Junior Dos Santos, which, by the way, he looks good in the first round. And then the second round, he starts, wheels start to fall off. He gets caught. No big deal. Here's a young athletic heavyweight. He'll get better. But then you book him against Blagoy Ivanov. Bad spot. And then the Sergey Spivak fight, yeah, he gives up 6 takedowns. He looks mentally checked out. He's a bust at this point, right? Matching him up in the Stefan Struve fight, I remember he's a minus 150 favorite, right? So slight line. Surely he's going to knock out Stefan Struve. Can't really take a punch. And Tai Tuivasa is one of those guys that just comes at you and lets his hands go. He's got the power. He's young. Like, this is a terrible matchup for Stefan Struve. And Tai goes out there, he gets that knockout. 1 second left in the first round, knocks him out. But I thought he physically looked a lot better. I thought it looked like he was taking his training seriously. And what you got to realize about Tai Tuivasa, still only 28 years old, is that you go from being a highly touted prospect, drinking shoeies, having a good old time, UFC's marketing you, main card appearances, things are going good. Now all of a sudden, a 3-fight losing streak, including a loss to Sergey Spivak last time out. By the way, Sergey Spivak is one of the most improved guys you've seen in the division.
For sure. It doesn't look that bad. Like, at the time, you're kind of like, oh, busted prospect. Now you're like, Spivak's top 15 heavyweight for sure.
Spivak's a guy that's filled out physically. He's got a good ground game. And in that fight, he took him down 6 times. Tai did keep popping back up, but Sergey just stuck on him and eventually submitted him. But again, in hindsight, those are 3 good heavyweights. Junior Dos Santos, Blagoy Ivanov, Sergey Spivak, right? Win over Andrei Arlovsky, a legend of the division, an old guy. That looks good. The winner over Stefan Struve, I wouldn't say a legend of the division, but one of the older guys, a name guy.
Cashing that Tuivasa round 1 right at the buzzer.
Oh, I know. What a sweat. Well, it was like, you knew he was going to get that knockout.
No,
I love that spot.
I'd almost given up on it, though, because, there's 5 seconds left, and then boom.
And is he still young? And he still needs some time? Absolutely. But booking him against Dante Mays was the right move, right? Because here's a guy that conceivably he can win this fight. Mays has got a long jab. He's a long athletic guy.
He's not going to just take him down at will.
Who won't likely take him down at will. We can get a good little fun fight. Boxer versus brawler, essentially. But a fun little fight. Hopefully see a shoey out of it. So Mays pulls off and Harry Hunsucker inserted, and Harry Hunsucker would have fought in Francis Ngannou if they offered the fight to him. Why? Because he's 32 years old. His one shot, he's fought on the Kentucky regional scene exclusively in his career. His one shot at something notable was on the Contender Series, where he came in and gave a go at it. He hurt Jared Vanderaa early in the first round. Why? Because he had nothing to lose. He really wanted that UFC contract, and he knew, I just got to let it all go. And he did let it all go. He hit him a couple times. Vanderaa eventually recovered, and then Vanderaa smashes him. So when you see, again, it was to Sergey Spivak, funny how the heavyweight division works, but Vanderaa is not UFC caliber, really isn't. Harry Hunsucker, he's not UFC caliber as well. But what you will see him do, because he's on short notice, and you'll see the same thing on the Contender Series, he's going to go out there and he's going to let his hands fly. Mm-hmm. But knocking out Tai Tuivasa, Good luck, man, because he's got one of those Samoan jaws on him, just like Mark Hunt, just like all these guys you've seen. They go out there, they can take one hell of a punch. Tai Tuivasa is the same way, right? He got caught clean by Junior Dos Santos, and I remember he got caught, he drops, the ref stops it, and immediately he's like, oh, shit. It was like, whoa, he recovered pretty quickly. Within 10 seconds, he had all of his wits about him. Since then, chin hasn't been an issue, and I don't think that he's going to get chin checked early enough here against Harry Hunsucker. Even if he did, same as Vandera, he would recover and put it on him. We don't have a line right now, but if you had to guess, it would be Tai Tuivasa with
minus 500.
For sure, he opens
which
up
is scary banana peel pricing with heavyweights, kind of.
Exactly, because it should be the same as Montel Jackson. If Montel Jackson's a minus 750, then I would see this line opening Tai Tuivasa minus 550, and then going to 750 as well. The difference there is that those are heavyweights, and Harry Hunsucker is just going to come into bang. It's going to be to his detriment, but he's going to let his hands go, right? They're heavyweights. Something could happen. Whereas the Montel Jackson-Jesse Strader fight, Jesse, by the way, lets his hands go unbelievably well, but Montel Jackson's probably just going to be a little bigger.
You just keep wanting to talk about that one. Well,
man, did I mention he's Aaron Carter's boxing coach? To me, that's hilarious. Does nobody else remember Aaron Carter? I wouldn't blame you if you didn't, but
of course,
Jesus.
He doesn't strike me as a world-class boxer, but hey, I haven't seen him in about 15 years, so who knows?
The mold that the Pauls are doing, Jake and Logan Paul, it's the same model that was going on with celebrity boxing back when Danny Bonaducci would fight some guy, right? It's the same thing. People love washed-up celebrities fighting.
So not only are they replicating that model and putting it on at a much lower cost, because they come from a similar background to almost all of us and how we do our production, like YouTube people, they understand how impactful it is to own all your own content. The cut that the Pauls are getting of this shit is outrageous. It's obviously not Mayweather level in terms of overall dollars, but they probably get a higher percentage of the rake than Mayweather does for his events, which is just insane.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing you got to consider is that if you had Dennis Rodman fighting somebody back in the early 2000s or late 90s, it would have been cool, would have been fun. You want to see Dennis Rodman fight. How do you market that thing? You have to pay for radio spots. You have to pay for TV ads. You got to send these guys.
You just have these people with massive social media presences that just have to make a few tweets and boom.
And a couple videos. And they're creating content anyways, but it's like, hey, look at me. I'm going to spar today. And then they show some sparring footage and they have these funny videos. I'm going to jump off my roof wearing a Batman costume into a pool. And then I'm going to go run this. It's all content. You're interested in this guy's life. He's showing you his training camp, his day-to-day. He fights a little bit. And now he's going to fight, and it's all of a sudden, it's like you're in. And then to draw in other people, they throw Mike Tyson on the card. It's like, I thought we were all buying that pay-per-view to see Roy Jones, Mike Tyson. No. The reason why it sold was the Paul brothers. Because, they actually have a much wider audience than people that are interested in watching a 54-year-old Mike Tyson, right?
Mm-hmm. And there's, two things that go along with it, too, is one, the opponents, it's Nate Robinson. People our age and older know Nate
sick.
Robinson. Aaron Carter would be kind of the same way. That's more for our demo and, plus or minus 7 years from us. People who can afford to buy these pay-per-views. And everyone who's probably above 25 or 30 fucking hates the Pauls and wants to see them get knocked out, so they'll tune into that. But they're sneaky good at all this, so they can keep it going against these scrubs.
I know. I was actually considering betting Ben Askren, and then Pat sent me the photo of him claiming that he was training, but he's playing Frolf with Jordan from the challenge, and then I was just like, ugh.
Out.
Jake Paul may actually knock out Ben Askren. Ben Askren isn't the greatest boxer by any stretch of the imagination. Just watch the video. I'm sure you've seen it of I don't
have to see the video. I've watched his entire MMA career, Paul. I know he's not a good striker.
I mean, if he can't get a takedown.
And
now that I know that his training is him playing Frolf, I don't know. I'm a little bit more nervous for Funky Ben. All right, we got Adrian Yanez taking on Gustavo Lopez. Minus 225 Yanez, plus 185 Lopez. Who you got here, Cody?
Yeah, so this feels like your too good to be true pricing of the week is Adrian Yanez. I really like this kid. I think he's dangerous. I think he's versatile. He's young. He's getting a lot better. When you look at the results out of him, by the way, he's only 27 years old, right? Signs to the UFC, coming off a pretty good little LFA run. Comes to the UFC, wins on the Contender Series against Brady Huang, first round knockout, 39 seconds. You see him in the Victor Rodriguez fight in his debut with the head kick, but he's super fluid with his striking. I mean, he's got good footwork. He's very fast. He's very agile. He's got a good straight left down the middle. He likes to maybe switch stances a little bit. But again, here's a guy that can just catch you and has good speed, good accuracy. I feel like he's getting confident. I feel like he's getting better. I feel like he's starting to near the prime of his career, adding all the wrinkles to his game. I think he's a very dangerous challenger. Gustavo Lopez, meanwhile, there's no discredit against him, but I think we kind of know where he's at. 31 years old, extreme couture guy. He's local to Las Vegas. So where he was fighting on the Combache regional scene, pandemic happens, UFC's running shows in Vegas. They need guys. Gustavo Lopez, perfect. And they throw him in there against Merab Dvalishvili. Like, talk about a bad go. He did have, his stock went up in that fight. You take a short notice fight on Merab Dvalishvili, you get owned, but you went the distance. You showed a couple spots, but takedown defense, awful, as most people who fight Merab, usually are. And for that reason, a lot of people were backing Anthony Burchak coming into his next fight, because Burchak, former ASU wrestler, Division I guy out of Arizona, probably could go out there, take him down. BJJ black belt, does have good grappling. And Gustavo Lopez flips the script, man, hurts him, rocks him, ends up taking him down, ends up submitting him. And it's just like, Jesus, where was that out of? Guy is well-rounded. Again, 31 years old. This is probably his ceiling. But he's tricky. He's dangerous. I just don't know where he wins this fight. He's got to get Yanez down. I don't think he's going to be able to stand with him for a long time. He is durable. I will give him that. With Yanez, he's been showing a lot of these quick finishes. So theoretically, you do extend this guy into a second or third round. You could make it dicey. If that's the case, I'd be looking to live bet it. If Yanez doesn't take this guy out in the first and he starts to tire in the second or third, maybe I hedge out. But until then, I like Adrian Yanez. I think he's a legitimate prospect. I think he's getting a lot better. And I like him in the spot. As far as the over, it looks like Gustavo Lopez is real durable. I would want to take a poke at that over 2.5.
He got knocked out by Andre Ewell, man.
And when you see Yanez touch guys, it's like, oh man, they're gone.
I think Yanez by knockout plus 150. I see at one book. That's the play I'm considering.
Fair enough. So that's a better price, obviously, than 225 Yanez. And it, does this thing go the distance? Probably not. When you see how both guys fight, they do have a, propensity to finish
the under
early.
is juiced to minus 165, so I'm going to play that plus 150.
I don't mind
Yanez
that.
by KO.
I don't
It's
mind
only
that.
available at one book out there right now. Bet online. I think it's plus 110 at a different book. I share most of the same sentiments. Let's move on. We got Max Payne Griffin taking on Kenan Song. We got Griffin as a minus 190 favorite. Song could be had for plus 165. Kenan Song just doesn't throw enough. Like, you go through a bunch of his fights, the volume just isn't there, and he's given up 5 inches of reach here. I've never been a big Max Payne Griffin fan. I typically don't bet his fights. I don't think he's the most talented guy, but the guy's super, super durable. His volume is definitely higher than Kenan Song, and I think maybe he can get some wrestling here, take the fight to the mat. Even if he doesn't, I think he's just going to he's going to have a lot more volume in this fight. And that 5-inch reach advantage, I think, is going to really play into his favor. He's been super durable on top of that as well. So if this goes 15, I like Max Griffin just to win on volume. And then maybe Max has a little bag of tricks for Kenan Song on the ground as well if he chooses to use his wrestling in this spot. So I think the line more or less makes sense. I've seen some people taking a shot on Kenan Song, and I just can't get on board with that. What about you?
Yeah, I can't get on board as well. Kenan Song was brought into the UFC for a very specific reason. They needed to fit that certain Chinese demographic. They were going to China. They needed a guy. He actually is probably the only guy in modern era UFC history signed to the promotion on a 2-fight losing streak, right? So he loses to Elmer Agaev by decision and then gets knocked out by Brad Riddell prior to making his UFC debut against Bobby Nash, who's no longer with the promotion. Then he beats Hector Aldana. Yo, boy. I'm just kidding. You always would say worst fight in the UFC. And, he lived up to that, right? No longer with the promotion. He loses to Alex Morono, and Morono just backs him up, right? Morono puts some pressure on him. And, Morono's a fringe top 20 guy. On a good day, he's a top fringe, not a 15, but a top 25, 20 guy. And he's like, he's outclassed in that spot, right? But the guys that are no longer with the promotion, he can cut it against them. Oh, Derek Kranz.
Yeah,
right?
this is part of my play.
Calvin Potter, you say. So,
find yourself a manager who can get you the fights booked that Kenan Song has got booked.
Well, the UFC knows what they're doing.
They gave him
they know what they're doing.
3 or 4 of the worst fighter in the division.
They gave him 4 of the worst guys in the division, guys that are no longer with the promotion for a very reason, right? I mean, the UFC's got like 1,000 guys on the roster. If you can't got a roster spot, you're not one of the top 1,000 guys on the planet. Again, he's signed to the UFC on a 2-fight losing streak, Chinese prospect. They want to build him up. They give him some of those winnable fights. In those fights, he shows that he can strike a little bit. He shows that there are some elements to his game, but he's not even a prospect. He's 31. Like, he's been in there. He's done that. I'm pretty sure he's lost to Israel Adesanya way back in the day. Like, Song Kanon's actually been around a long ass time. I just don't like how he matches up in this spot, right? I mean, I don't think the UFC is looking to do him any favors anymore. And Max Griffin's just sneaky good. You talked about earlier about how Kevin Holland's a guy that's cost you money, right? Max Griffin's legitimately a guy that's cost me money because you don't really know what version of him's going to show up. But if the version of him that shows up stays at the outside and uses that jab, he just eats you up, man. He does a lot of damage from like simple strikes, busts you up, causes you to get hurt. His grappling, big time ever improving. He lost also to Alex Morono on the basis of he just waited too long to get his grappling going. But in the third round, it's like, shit, man, guy can grapple as well. The Alex Oliveira fight, he loses a split decision, but I thought he got robbed in that fight. Like, gave a good account of himself against a mediocre version of Cowboy Oliveira, but all the same, it would have been a good win for him. And then the Ramiz Brahimaj fight last time out, he absolutely dissected this guy. Now, Ramiz turned out just not to be on his level. Strong guy, physical guy, probably wanted to get the fight to the ground, but Max Payne Griffin's just got too many tools.
It didn't look
him.
like he wanted to get it to the ground.
Yeah, I don't know.
He also
got flat out robbed by Thiago Alves. So you see he's in a lot of these close fights. A lot of his fights go to the decision, and he does get robbed in a couple of them anyways. But when he's at his best, the Mike Perry fight, the Zalim and Madaya fight, that Ramiz Brahimaj fight his last time out, he's just surgical on the outside. With Song Kanon, I was like, well, where does he win this fight? Max Griffin's got the grappling advantage, he's got the wrestling advantage, and he's got the striking advantage. He's just got to grit through those tough spots and hopefully not tire out. So minus 190, I think that the line's priced pretty good. I would go for that over 2.5, being that, yeah, again, he, tends to go overs in his fights, go a lot of these decisions, but I'm not completely sold on it. So probably avoid that over under. 210 is not a good price. So don't really care for the over. Maybe I would just take the Max Griffin straight up, minus 190.
We got Chaisson buys taking on Montserrat Ruiz. We got minus 360 on buys, plus 300 on Ruiz. Watched tape on both of these ladies. Watched buys on the Contender Series. A lot of cage work.
Is it buys or bays?
Bays. Buys. I'm not buying it.
Hey there, buys.
I'm not buying it, Cody. Minus 360 is insane to me. Watched Montserrat Ruiz in Invicta in a couple fights. It's sloppy. It's she just kind of barges forward, throwing strikes. But at the end of the day, this minus 360 line is just out of control. I took a small shot on Ruiz, plus 300. I just think hopefully it just turns into an ugly fight. It's close. And it could be kind of a coin flip situation. I didn't see anything from buys that would lead me to believe that she should be a minus 360 favorite really against anybody. I think it's going to be a relatively close fight. And give me the girl with the neck tat at plus 300.
Yeah. Neck tats and women MMA, it's
yeah.
legit because it's like, they're going to be aggressive, and aggression wins a lot of these spots.
Yep.
So, yeah, I hear you. But I got to go with buys. Buys is just obviously the A-side fighter. It's not that, taking a shot on Ruiz at that price isn't worth it because there's a big dog spot. But as far as like an official pick goes, I would have to take buys. So her husband, JP Buys, is actually going to kick up the card. So, I think it's like the first husband-wife duo to fight on the same UFC card. Kind of cool.
If he loses early, maybe.
Yeah, but they're from Fortis MMA, and Fortis MMA features like Kevin Holland, Adrian Yanez.
Kevin Holland's out. Is he still out of Fortis?
I'm not sure. Macy Chaisson most definitely is. Trevin Giles. The fucking whole card is Fortis MMA, right? So she's going to be very well prepared first and foremost. Second of all, she's very aggressive, man. She's always coming forward. She's always letting her hands go. Her wrestling's pretty good. JP buys his wrestling.
She's gonna get caught, Dog City.
It's a Mayo special here. Plus 300 in a close women's fight. That's what I was going with here.
Well,
I
just to finish
think
my last point.
I'm not convinced because I saw her in that fight.
Yeah.
A lot of cage work, control.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not convinced that she's stronger than Ruiz. I just think the line's a little bit off. If this was more like minus 170 plus 150, I would not be taking the shot on Ruiz. But I just think this line is out of hand.
Yeah, well, that's why a lot of people are like, you got to jump on the line before the line's gone, right? So this line actually opened up, buys 250, which, again, that's probably not the best price tag, but 250 sounds a lot better than minus 360 now, doesn't it? At minus 360, you really don't want any. Now you start thinking, ooh, shot on Ruiz. And again, I think that if there was a value side to this fight, the value side would be on Ruiz. Why not? It's a women's MMA fight. If they're both making their UFC debut, why not? But again, Cheyenne buys what I like out of her, like skill-wise. I mean, she can wrestle, she can strike, she's really aggressive, she's got good cardio, and she's got good pressure. She just keeps coming forward a lot of the time. She was originally scheduled to take Kay Hansen on in the spot. That would have been a really good fight.
Getting brought in to lose to Kay Hansen.
Well, Kay Hansen's like 21 years old, right? This girl's young as well. She is 25 years old.
Yeah.
25 years old. Just won in the Contender Series. Looked good in the Contender Series. Signs with the UFC. Kay Hansen's technically coming off a loss. Technically, as in she physically did fucking lose, but a lot of people thought she won all the same.
But we won money on that.
Yeah, we won money on that. So who gives a shit what
robbery? What robbery?
I get robbed. I robbed. Whatever. Manel Cap got robbed. What? I have to handle it.
We don't
because
have
sometimes,
to apologize to anyone.
Because sometimes Corey McKenna gets a favorable rub. What can I say?
Yeah.
But she's supposed to fight Kay Hansen, which is a really tough fight. So again, you've got a ton of teammates on the card. You got a really good spot here. This is a good opportunity for her. And then in comes out Montserrat Ruiz. And it's not nothing against Montserrat Ruiz, but she's 5 feet tall with a 61-inch reach.
But it's 5'3", 363. Trust me, I covered all of these bases.
She's 5 feet tall, Paul.
Yeah, but
she's almost in the 4-foot category.
Whatever. Bias isn't that big though.
I'll give you one thing, girl.
Like if she had like a 67-inch reach, and we're talking, there's a 2-inch reach advantage. If we were talking like a 5'6", and then maybe it's a different story. But I just saw a lot of cage work. Like that's what buys seem to want to do.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I will give Ruiz one thing, right? So she's again still young herself. She's only 28. She was apparently training at King's MMA. And she went, I think what is it?
She lost to Danielle Taylor, I know.
She lost.
I know where you're going with that.
It's not even the end of the world.
Friends
right?
don't love friends, kind of thing.
She
right?
went 5 rounds the fight before Danielle Taylor, and her cardio looked unbelievable, aggressive the whole way through. Then she loses to Danielle Taylor over a 3-round fight in Invicta. And Danielle Taylor's at least been to the big show, doesn't throw shit as well. And then she gets a kind of a cheeky submission her last time.
Yeah, that was
that's women's MMA, dog.
It wasn't really
that's
a
women's
submission.
MMA, dog.
They called it a scarf hold, but it was more of a I quit type.
Do you want to know something? This is an actual.
I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. Tap tap tap.
Yeah, Felice Herrig nailed one in the Ultimate Fighter as well. And when I started jiu-jitsu, like my 3rd class, it was like 2008. The instructor, I was like, "What's the name of this?" And I got caught in it. And he's like, "What's the name of this?" And he goes, it's a bitch tap." That's what he said. He said, "It's a bitch tap." What do you mean it's a bitch tap? He goes, well, you know, like you can get out, you can muscle out, there was always a way out of it. And so you've never seen that move nailed before, other than there and the Felice Herrig one on the Ultimate Fighter. Other than that, no man has tapped to it. So I feel like I don't know. There's certain moves. The calf slicer, you've seen it twice in the UFC. The bicep slicer, right? You've never seen it, right?
Never seen that.
Or sorry, it's not a bicep slicer, it's a bicep crusher, right? You've never seen the bicep crusher in the UFC because there are moves that are like, you can tough it out. You can tough it out of the move. Unfortunately, the calf slicer could tear off your calf. You know, the bicep crusher in jiu-jitsu, guys have torn their bicep. It's just you don't see it in MMA. There's always a way out. In this case, yeah, whatever. What I'm getting at is that she's fought at a relatively low level. She was supposed to take on Emily Ducote, Bellator veteran, and that one's interesting because Emily Ducote's actually a training partner of Cheyenne Buys. So I don't know, take what you want out of it. What I'm saying is that she's coming in on short notice here, filling in for Kay Hansen. Because of the short notice nature of it, I would have to say that the advantage goes Buys. The price, it got steamed. $250 seems reasonable enough. Now it's steamed to $360. Do you want in at this price? Probably not. Well, I want the over. It's women's MMA. Nah, it's minus $260. Again, this is not... That one's fizzy. That's your problem with Guinness, man.
We got a spiller.
And that's why they ship it with like a ping pong ball on the bottom.
There is one.
Yeah, there always is in the cans, or otherwise it'd be flat. But yeah.
You gotta drink.
I agree. The pick would be Cheyenne Buys. I'm not disagreeing with your idea to take a shot on the underdog, but I
ain't
think
scared.
all the advantages are going towards Buys in the spot, and so I'll back her.
One question. How is Buys going to win when her opponent has no face?
Fair.
Yeah, not only that, she's got no neck and she's 5 feet tall, right? She's like, how are you gonna take down a little gnome?
You love all the stumpy male fighters.
Samwise Gamgee, have you ever seen him give up a takedown? No, because he's a little tree stump of a man. And he was
Cody doesn't want to take the shot. It's fine.
successfully able to protect Frodo for all those missions.
I had to. I just thought I watched the tape on both of them, and I'm like, this. I could see this going both ways and just being a complete slop fest.
I think Buys backs her up with the aggression, and I
Is
don't
she
think Ruiz.
stronger? I'm just
I
not
don't think
convinced.
Ruiz fights particularly good with her back up against the. You know what? It's probably a pass. At that price, it's a pass. If you're gonna throw some parlays together, 360 is the third biggest favorite on the card.
The name was Show Pal.
Yeah, that's fair.
Dogger Pal. there was a shitty pie up there at the same time though, so that's the risk I'm willing to take.
Well,
anyway.
you taking Marion Reneau?
No, she's 43.
Well, let's get to
She
it.
takes on Macy Chaisson. We've already talked about this fight a few weeks back. I mean, all of these cards just kind of blend into each other. It was probably like a month back that this fight was booked. Was it Chaisson's corner got COVID?
Yeah.
Yeah, rebooked obviously for this card. Minus 210 Chaisson, plus 175. I'm sure we said it before. Is that, Marion Reneau, I think it's kind of the end of the line. She's a 43. You say 43?
43, yeah.
43-year-old gym teacher. The big issue here is, Chaisson used to fight at 145. Before getting excited about a minus 210, I'd make sure that she looks okay on the scales. But I think youth wins here. Just kind of gets the job done. A little bit more active, a little bit cleaner striking from the outside. I think considerably faster, even despite being bigger. I think Macy Chaisson wins, but I got to see her on the scales before I do anything about that minus 210. What about you?
Yeah, no, I'm in on Macy Chaisson. I don't know how much I love it, strictly because of the fact that similar to the last fight, the price is a little bit big for the fact that I know I'm getting a rather tight, anything could happen, women's MMA matchup. It's going to be a fun fight, but again, I just don't know how much faith you can have in it. Macy Chaisson, I liked her on The Ultimate Fighter. Like you mentioned, she's 145. Unfortunately, there's no real 145 weight class, and so she's smart enough to make the drop right away. She fought Penny Kianzad in the finals, won at 145, but then her next fight against Gina Mazzani, she made weight. The next fight against Sarah Moras, she made weight. Wins both of those, low level. Lena Landsberg fight, she made weight. Shayna Young fight, she made weight. I think she'll be okay here at 135, but she is a big 135er, and that's her natural advantage. My problem is the Lena Landsberg fight 2 fights back. Landsberg's a Muay Thai striker, She's a European Muay Thai striker from Sweden. Accredited, I suppose. Kind of has low volume. They call her the elbow queen. But she just took Macy Chaisson down. And as soon as Macy Chaisson got taken down, off her back, it was like, oh my God. No game. No game. Start to fatigue. Look tired. Didn't have a plan B. Look lost. And then lost the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible outing for her. Comes back in that Shayna Young fight. And again, Shayna Young's making a UFC debut. Is probably ill-equipped for this spot. Macy Chaisson does look good. Does look like she's making improvements. She's another Fortis MMA fighter. But again, it wasn't anything spectacular. She gets the victory. I thought she looked solid. And then it's a year-long absence since then. So, how many improvements has she made since then? Has she made any improvements? Is it going to hinder her? Is it going to be to her detriment? Is it going to be to her favor? You just don't really know. But I think you nailed it pretty much here. We got Reneau's 43. She's fought the way better competition. She's fought a lot of solid fighters in the UFC. But her best days are behind her. And she's BJJ black belt. And remember how we were talking about the other day, like a Muay Thai black belt, whatever. But she has one. She's a good striker. She's got heavy leg kicks. She spent time at King's MMA, spent time training at the highest level. But she doesn't deal great with physicality. And I think that Macy Chaisson is just going to be too big, too strong. She's going to have the youth. She's going to have the athleticism. She's going to push forward. But minus 210 is not the greatest price tag. I think Marion Reneau, if Marion Reneau was to get this fight to the ground and would end up in top position, it would be a big problem for Macy Chaisson. The reason why I can't back Marion Reneau, despite the 43, is Her offensive wrestling is awful. Awful. She can strike and she can grapple, but her takedown game is weak as shit. And so what she needs to do
how do
is
you get it there?
right. So how's she going to get it there?
Catch a kick or something like that.
And so now it's like, okay, scrap that plan. I'm just going to move forward and bully this girl. Reneau, 43 or not, always shows up in fantastic shape. Why? Gym teacher. Her day literally consists of being in shape all the time. So I know she's going to come in and give a good account of herself, try to pressure forward, try to land those strikes. But Chaisson's just the bigger, rangier, stronger fighter. And I think that if she's able to put Reneau on her back foot, it'll work for her. Minus 210, again, it's just not a price tag I love. This is not a fight I love from a betting standpoint, but she would be the pick.
Grant Dawson takes on Leonardo Santos. Grant Dawson, a minus 190 favorite. Santos can be had for plus 165. I do have a bet on this one. I saw it open up at plus 700. Missed the action on that. But then they reopened it at plus 650.
650.
Santos by submission. My problem here is that Grant Dawson, what have we seen from him? Likes to control, likes to get into grappling exchanges. This is the first time that he's taking on a guy that could cause some big problems for him. And I think that his stand-up game is still a work in progress. Grant Dawson always goes to the takedowns. That's always what he wants to do. And this is the best BJJ practitioner that he's taken on so far. So I thought, I'm going to take a shot. Plus 700, would have preferred that. Maybe somebody else. There's not many books that have opened up those props yet. This was like the first one that did it.
I'm looking to see what it's at right now.
Plus 650, Santos by submission. I just did it this afternoon. Had to take a shot. I just think that this is this is the first test, and we've seen Leonardo Santos, even though he hasn't been very, very active, he's shitting an apple pie or two in his day. This could be a spot where maybe Grant Dawson, nobody's really caused him any sort of problems on the ground. I know he's really trained well with James Krause at Glory MMA and Fitness. Maybe their game plan is keep it on the feet. I'm not convinced that he's the better striker either, though. I think we haven't seen Santos in a while, so that's why he's kind of a wild card. But if this gets to the mat, maybe it gets a little bit dicey. I'm not convinced that Grant Dawson can really hang with Leonardo Santos on the ground. So I had to take the shot. Santos by submission plus 650.
Santos at William Hill by submission plus 850.
Yeah, I just saw that right now.
See, I jumped a little bit too early. I didn't think I was going to get a number like that. May have to add a little more.
Well, it's currently 650 as well in 5 dimes, but him by knockout is the same thing, right? And I think he could do either. He could. I am going to pick Grant Dawson, but I'm not totally thinking like, oh, Paul, you're off on this one. Like, man, he actually has big advantages here. First of all, who the fuck is going to out-grapple him? He's a 7-time world champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I saw the guy flying armbar George St. Pierre one time. Grappling second to none. As far as his striking goes, man, massive improvements. Yeah, everybody likes to talk about the Kevin Lee fight where he absolutely rocked Kevin Lee's life. And shattered his ankle actually in the process. But it's not even that. That fight's a long time ago. Then you see the Stevie Ray fight. He's like a 3-year-long layoff from the sport. Comes back, same thing. Striking is most definitely there. Leo Santos has got some good striking. The one thing, he's got good striking. He's got good submissions. He's got good grappling. He's got a good chin. He got bad gas tank. He's always had bad gas tank, bad cardio. And you see him his last time out against Bogatov. It's like, that Bogatov fight is one of the strangest fights you'll ever see in your life, where Leo Santos wins the first round against Bogatov, probably wins the second round. Third round, he loses the third round, but he gets a 2-point deduction because Bogatov knees him twice in the nuts over the course of the fight and then lands an illegal knee on the ground. But that fight was like, okay, yeah, Leo Santos is human. He is the guy that I believe him to be. He has all the skills in the world, but he's got a suspect cardio. He doesn't have great wrestling. And again, he can strike in spots. But if you put a pace on the guy, you're going to break him down. I think that Grant Dawson is going to put that pace on him. He's relentless. He's got great cardio. He's a good grappler himself. I don't think that you're off on the submission prop because when you look at the Derek Minner fight,
because
when you look at the Derek
Will
Minner
Hill
fight,
because YOLO and because 850, there's
850 is a big price.
There's massive FOMO going on here. I can't have that just slip by. Not as much as the 650.
Can you have FOMO on something you already have?
I want more, Pat. I want that screen grab for the plus 850. That line's not going to be there.
Listen, I get it. Derek Minner had his neck in all sorts of scary trouble multiple times. But it was like Grant Dawson found a way to escape and found a way to get him out. Here's another thing that if you're a Leo Santos backer that you're going to be liking is that this is Grant Dawson's first fight at 155 pounds, right? Prior to this, he's been fighting at 145, and his last fight against Nad Narimani was a catch weight of 150. His fight versus Derek Minner, he missed weight and came in at 149.5. But as a Grant Dawson backer, which I am, I like that. I like that because he was way too big for featherweight. He was hurting in his body trying to make the weight cut, coming down. He missed weight against Derek Minner, as I talked about, but he gutted out the spots, came back, cardio looked good. Physically, this guy is a fucking animal. He's relentless. He's got good wrestling. His striking's bad, man. See, he'll throw a flying knee for the simple fact of closing distance. He'll throw some wild-ass strike.
He always wants to close distance.
Yeah, dude.
Closing distance in this fight is danger.
I know.
I think it's a weird matchup for him, and that's why I thought that price is just a little bit too out of hand for the threats that Santos provides.
No, you're right, because if he doesn't close distance and he doesn't pursue the takedowns and he stays standing, that straight right from Santos is going to eat him up. It's going to eat him straight down the pipe. He's too wild and loopy to just stay up in a 15-minute striking battle. He needs to mix in the wrestling. And whereas I agree with you, that wouldn't be a great game plan, I think Dawson will do okay with it. Roman Bogatov was one of the worst fighters I've seen in a very long time. And he had moments of success because Santos got tired. He's got bad cardio. And if you lean on him and grind on him, you don't necessarily even have to fully take him down. Just grind on him against the cage. Then when he slows, you have your way. And I think that's what Dawson's going to do. Now, I'm chasing the over 2.5, even though you got submission and knockout's a good price and all this and that, I understand. I got the over 2.5 because I think Dawson's not finishing Santos. He's just going to grind him. And I'm also going to pursue Grant Dawson by decision to try to get myself like a plus money play. But the pick straight up would be Grant Dawson. And I'm really hoping.
I hope you lose.
You know what? You talk shit about Reneau because she's 43. But now you got 41-year-old Leo Santos. Hasn't submitted a guy in how many years here? I just want to be real official on this one. Hasn't scored a submission victory in 5 years. Actually,
He's
6
due.
years. My lie, 6 years.
He's due.
He did submit Rocco Martin, though, 6 years ago, which is
Who
a good
finishes
win.
Rocco Martin?
I know
The
what you're
decision
saying.
machine.
I know what you're saying. That's actually a really good win, but it was 6 years ago, dude. It's a long time.
He's due.
Same thing with the Kevin Lee fight. Shit was a long time ago.
I hope he's due.
Man. This is not 2015 no
Now
more.
I own plus 650 and plus 850.
Have you ever watched? I'm sure you
Plus
have
850,
live.
What I just bet it.
But to anybody at home, go rewatch the Adriano Martins fight.
Plus
It's the follow-up fight to his greatest fight against Kevin Lee, and it is the biggest letdown. What a shitty fight because he got bad cardio. He's there to get exposed.
The way it's shaking out right now, if Leo Santos wins by submission, I can't lose money on this card.
Oh, yeah, it'd be a good play. It'd be a great play. But James Krause will have the proper game plan. So cue that up, Paul. So I'm okay. We're on opposite sides.
All right. We got Roman Dolidze taking on Trevin Giles. Roman Dolidze minus 135 favorite. Trevin Giles can be had for plus 115. Trevin Giles was supposed to take on Dricus Du Plessis in this spot. Du Plessis had to pull out. Dolidze steps in. Obviously, he's probably just hanging around Vegas right now, looking for opportunities to get back on a card. I like Dolidze here, I think. Ever since Trevin Giles pulled out of that one fight, what exactly happened there? Pulled out of that fight last second. Ever since that kind of happened, I'm completely out on Trevin Giles. Roman hasn't looked all that bad. I'm surprised that this line is playable, to be perfectly honest. Maybe it's the nature of the short notice for Roman Dolidze, but he seems to have skills in most facets of the game. Giles isn't exactly a volume machine. How does Giles win this fight?
Yeah, but it's striking, I would think. I would think that...
Is he a better striker than Dolidze?
Oh, definitely a better striker than Dolidze. Dolidze is just so wild. Does Dolidze maybe have a power advantage? Sure. Loves that spinning back fist, loves the overhand right, loves to throw the knees, loves to throw... He's kind of got a side kick to the body he likes to utilize a little bit. He's a power guy. He's a big, thick, strong Georgian motherfucker. But yeah, outside of that, his striking is just super wild and loopy. Giles got a nice jab. Giles got a nice right hand. Giles' problem is that, again, it's a cardio issue. He just tends to fall apart and get tired. What worries me here is that you're really going to have to wait until you see the weigh-ins. Because on one hand, you got Giles. Trevin Giles was initially supposed to fight Dricus Du Plessis. He's had the fight booked. He's been all right. No problem taking this fight. 185 pounds. Roman Dolidze, meanwhile, when he came to the UFC, right, what was the big talk? He was he won the ADCC Oceania title, right? The regional ADCC gets you a title into the big one, but he won that, and he won the 2013 FILA grappling tournament, right? So those are two little good accolades for grappling, and he did both of those at 99 kilograms, right? Which I think is like 218 pounds. And you see his fights in the UFC, right? He fought Cody Saftic at 205. He fought John Allen at 205. He's taking this fight on short notice at 185 pounds. Ain't that some shit? So I looked into it, and by his own accord, he walks around at 205. So he fought John Allen, he fought Katie Sabragimov at his walk-around weight. He figured, I think I could make 185. So it's kind of getting ready for a fight at 185, maybe. Gets the call for this one and decides, I'll take it. So you're going to want to see the weigh-ins. Because one, he might not physically make weight. He's a very strong, muscular, powerful guy. But B, if he does make weight and he looks good, he's a very big, strong, physical guy. Against Trevin Giles, if he goes out there and gets the takedowns, he's going to mop him up, right? He's got the superior top control. I think he's a good grappler. Trevin Giles also does have a suspect ground game of himself. And in the John Allen fight, you see, well, okay, first of all, the Case Sabragimov fight, he goes out there, he gets the takedown, he pounds him out. He's the only guy to finish Case Sabragimov, who's awful. Awful. Whoa. Did I mention awful?
Whoa territory, yep.
But at least Roman did what you're supposed to do against that level of opposition. He just blew him right out of there. The John Allen fight, John Allen's a wily competitor, came back from a positive USADA test, and, you know, is a tough enough guy. And I thought John Allen was getting the better of the striking for sure, but Roman Dolidze can rely on his grappling. Physically strong guy. His problem is that he's one of those guys that's a bit of a showman.
He was
so
playing with his food in that fight.
Right. Motherfucker plays with his food too much. And he's telling his corner, like, you want me to submit him, coach? And then drops back for a heel hook. It's like,
he's
dog.
a showman.
Oh, I hate betting on guys that drop back for heel hooks, ball. God damn. I hate guys that give up a position to go for a guillotine and pull guard. Like, don't give up a dominant position for the submission. But hey, they're going for 50K. They want to grow a fan base. They want bigger fights. They want to move their career along. Sometimes they want to be exciting. And this guy wants to be exciting. And so when you're betting somebody, you don't really care about excitement. You would take a slow-paced fight. You would take a grind of a fight as long as it was the winning result. Roman Dolidze could be in a favorable position. He could get this fight to the ground, and then he could easily just give it up, right? And so that makes him a little bit of an unknown. Trevin Giles is a better striker. Trevin Giles has fought the higher level. He's better experienced. And honestly, what I did see from him from his last fight, he did look a lot improved. Mind you, he's going out there and taking on the likes of Bavon Lewis, but he did look better. Now, the one thing I will mention is the fight with James Krause. James Krause is a natural 55er who fights at 170. Takes the fight on 3 days' notice against Trevin Giles at 185 and now grappled him. Roman Dolidze is coming down from 205, and his best grappling accolades, were at 99 kilograms, which is like 218 pounds. So again, like, he's a big, physical, strong guy. If he goes out there and scores a couple takedowns, this thing's all she wrote. But I want to see the weigh-ins. So I want to say, listen, I've pussed out so far, right? If I'm taking Holland, Gillespie, Yanez, Griffin, Cheyenne Buys, Macy Chaisson, Grant Dawson, I got to go Trevin Giles. But I really want to see that weigh-in, man. I could easily jump to the other side on this. He could come in like a monster, or he could come in 3 pounds overweight, and you really wouldn't want any exposure, now would you?
It's the Roman Empire, as far as I'm concerned. I'll take the leads, but I haven't bet it yet. I'll watch the weigh-ins as you told me to do. All right, next up we got Montel Jackson taking on Jesse Strader. Montel Jackson, minus 750 favorite. Strader can be at plus 550. Find yourself someone in life that looks at you the way odds makers look at Montel Jackson. How is this guy every single fight such a ginormous favorite? I know he looks like he's got all the tools, but he hasn't really beat anybody yet. I don't know much about this Strader cat. You've been alluding to it all week long, or all episode. all episode long. I've been drinking.
Yeah. No, I'm in. We'll go out after this too.
Strader plus 550. Montel Jackson minus 750. It's almost unplayable. What's the word here?
It's unplayable. It's minus 750. What do you want from it? I mean, at the very least, Jesse Strader has a what's it called?
It was Aaron Carter's boxing
pulse.
coach.
Yeah. Listen, he's got a pulse. He's good enough to be a plus 550 favorite. Montel Jackson's got some issues of his own right. One thing with Montel Jackson is he's deservedly so the favorite. Just minus 750 is too big of a price tag.
Mm-hmm. It always is with him. Every fight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's okay. I'll give him this, right? Dude turned pro in 2017, right? June of 2017. So he's been a pro for, less than 4 years. And since that time, he debuts in the UFC against Ricky Simón. Less than 2 years into his pro career. He's in the UFC. That's huge. Against Ricky Simón. And what I had heard on him right from the get-go, this is the Ricky Simón fight. What I had heard, they said, Cody, he's got the biggest hand you've ever seen in your life, and his grip strength was like amongst the highest in the UFC. And in the Simón fight, he loses decision. But Ricky Simón routinely, he would grab wrist control on Ricky Simón, and it was like a problem. Like, dude is physically strong. Losing to Ricky Simón, not a big deal. Okay, so he beats Brian Kelleher. Fuck, dude. You're less than 2 years into your pro career, and you just submitted Brian Kelleher in the first round. That's huge. Beats up Andre Sugmantath. Expected. Always a big favorite, like you said. Beats Felipe Corrales. Didn't look great in that fight, but got the win. And then Brett Johns. Well, Brett Johns is legit. He was a top 15 guy. Not a fringe 15 guy. He was a top 15 guy in the best division in the sport. And that fight's a year and a half ago. I'm going to say this guy probably is making improvements.
Yeah, probably.
He's big. He's strong. He's physical. We saw him really green, fighting good guys. He's going to be fine. But yeah, again, it's an MMA fight. And this Jesse Strader guy, I'll give him this. Sure, he's Aaron Carter's boxing coach. Sure, he's fought absolutely nobody. His wins are 0-0, 3-4, 2-1. Lost to Marcelo Rojo, who we saw fight Charles Jourdain last weekend.
And
Lost
got
to
knocked
him.
out in the first round.
Holy fuck, what a banger of a round, though. Like, a banger of a round. But he got knocked out, ultimately, like you said. And it's at 135 pounds. He gets knocked out. You've seen Rojo this weekend against Jourdain. Was at 145. How the hell did that guy ever make 35? He was so powerful. Lost. But boy, oh boy.
He put on a show.
He's a poor man's John Lineker.
Once his 2 broken orbitals heal, we'll see him back in there.
Two for sure, yeah. You know what? He flopped over, and I was thinking to myself, kind of an early stoppage. It was a body shot that but no, he didn't care. He wasn't protesting.
No, he was done.
And so that's why the
His
ref,
body gave out.
Yeah, and that's why the refs got the best view of the whole fight, because you see it, you feel it. This guy's done, and that's why a bad referee stop it. If you're sitting at home on your TV saying, "Yo, man, stop it," that he really has the impression this dude's not coming back from this. Anyways, all the same, it's like, is a fight like that, is a loss like that a big deal? No, a guy was super powerful, no big deal. But then Michael Jackson, 1-3, and then this Isaiah Gonzalez, who's 4-0, but again, it was a really soft 4-0, beats them. He's beating them, sure, but jumping in on short notice into the UFC against Montel Jackson is a very tough task. What I will give from him, from the limited fights you have seen him in, right? He is relentless, dude. Dude is like a Tasmanian devil. He just throws, reckless throws. But Montel Jackson hasn't been getting knocked out. He's been getting kind of like caught in spots where he gets out grappled or controlled. I don't think he's got a chin issue. He's got a massively long reach. Mm-hmm. I really do think he will have made improvements. He was young to begin with. So I think Montel Jackson is the A side, but 750 is just a crazy fucking price tag. As far as like the over-under, you can get plus 160 on the over 2.5, but it's like Jackson can easily submit this guy. And if Strader pulled off any type of upset, he'll catch him. He'll catch him with his relentless pace. More often than not, he'll get broke by just puts a pace on him, gets taken down, gets butchered up, gets submitted. So I got Montel Jackson. 750 is not a great price tag, so maybe you chase a prop by like submission or something, but even then, what are you getting out of it?
Yeah, fair. All right, we got Julia Avila taking on Julia?
It's Julia versus Julia.
Julia Stoliarenko. That was the performance that she put in against
she couldn't get off the
Yana
cage, man.
Kunitskaya. Oh my God! If you haven't watched tape on it, here's the thing. All that happened in that fight is she had an armbar attempt at the end of round 2. I think she threw 6 significant strikes, and Yana Kunitskaya basically just held her up against the cage. I just kind of think of Julia Avila more or less holding Gina Mazzani up against the cage, throwing knees to the body, but I think I was, me. I mean, I just bet Montserrat Ruiz because she had a neck tat, and I thought that the fight was close. I'm always looking for dog opportunities in these spots, but I think this is probably about right. I didn't see much from Stoliarenko to lead me to believe that she's UFC caliber, that she's going to win a fight in the UFC. Avila didn't look great. Eubanks really exposed her on the ground, everything like that. But I think she's getting set up. And apparently, she's full-time fighter now after she was like part-time for most of the earlier part of her career.
Yeah, she's a geologist.
I think she's set up to get a W here against one of the lower level fighters in the UFC. Line makes sense to me. I'm not excited about playing it at this price though. What about you?
Julia Avila was my girl. Loved her. Bet all these spots. You don't really get a good price tag out of it normally, but here's a girl who ran D1 track and field at the University of Notre Dame. Like, she's a hell of an athlete.
Fighting Irish.
Yeah, fighting Irish. Have a drink to that. Love the shirt too. She's got skills. She's a great athlete, and also she's very physical for 135. Big caboose on her, generates a lot of power. Good ground game. When she's on top of you, massive problem. As it turns out in the Santiago Eubanks fight, though, when she's on her back, problem for a betting standpoint. Yeah, she can't get up off her back. Big time holes off her game, off her back. Striking, I think she's got good striking. She's got good pressure. Moves forward, uses the right hand, backs you up. But ultimately, she needs to get this fight to the ground and establish top pressure. Julia, not Julia, Julia versus Julia. But Stoliarenko, on paper, there's a lot to like, right? Here's a girl, she was on The Ultimate Fighter way back when. She fought in the UFC against Leah Letson and lost, and that in itself is a problem. But Leah Letson's massive. Like, she's a big-time 145er. And so she goes on beyond that and fights Lethway in what used to be called... I guess it's Burmese bare-knuckle boxing is what it used to be called. Now it's Myanmar, so it's called Lethway. But, I mean, you're headbutting your opponent. You're smashing them with elbows. You're just it's a very brutal combat sport where only the toughest can survive. And she's a world champion. Like, she's going out there and beating you up bad. But then when she comes back to MMA, it's all arm bars, man. It's all first-round arm bars in, 30 seconds, a minute. She just routinely flops to her back, throws up an armbar, flops to her back.
She almost caught, at the end of round 2, she almost caught Yana Kunitskaya in one. Yana knew the defense against it, of course.
Yeah, and I mean, I think when you tape study this girl, it's like, oh, there she goes, pulling guard for an armbar. So you would understand that. And as far as her striking goes, her striking is vicious, and she could put a beating on you, but this ain't Lethway. You can't headbutt the chick. It's not all spent in the clinch, and I think Julia's going to be physically stronger than her. Then when you see her in the Kunitskaya fight, Kunitskaya just literally presses her up against the cage, and she has no ability to dig an underhook. She has no ability to pivot out. She has no ability to shift her weight and physically get off the cage. She's just lost, and she just allows these huge lulls of time to pass. So can she suddenly shore that up? I don't know. With Avila, her last time out against Eubanks was a stinker, and she was a sizable favorite in that spot. And again, I was all over in that spot. She got exposed a little bit. She's not exactly young. But here's a girl that, she actually debuted. Her MMA debut was against Mayo and Reneau. She has a regional scene win over Nico Montano. She's come to the UFC. She's scraped up some decent wins. The loss to Eubanks is a problem, but that just allows you to go back to the drawing board, refocus, game back up, come back in here, do what you got to do. I would actually say Julia Stoliarenko is a live underdog because it's 310. It's very similar to what you were looking at earlier in like a Montserrat Ruiz. We're at 300. It's a big price tag. But if Stoliarenko, for whatever reason, was to go up and get on top, it would be a problem. Avila had no game off her back. And here's a girl that's physically strong, no ability to get off the cage apparently, but here's a girl that's physically strong that could, but pulling guard is just detrimental.
I just heard Pat circle like this. Which means Pat is hammering Stoliarenko.
If Pat was to bet Stoliarenko and Ruiz, let's say it was, people like to say unit, whatever your unit is, you put one unit both sides. You're telling me both girls lose? Maybe not. Maybe Montserrat's the one to come through. Maybe it's Julia. I think they both lose, but yeah, we see this time and time again, all these cards. A lot of underdogs been coming through. Lines are pretty well, right, but The dog just comes through. It is what it is. Women's MMA, is it going to be a submission or a knockout? Not likely. The over 2.5 is set at 200. That makes a whole lot of sense to me. I'd probably chase this fight to go the distance, but I think Avila is going to be able to just pressure her back up because of the cage, get a couple takedowns, hold down a top position.
And finally, JP Buys taking on Bruno Silva. People love themselves from Bruno Silva. He was like plus 170 earlier in the week, and the line has came crashing down. He's Buys is minus 145. Silva is plus 125. You may remember JP Buys from winning on the Contender Series. Horrible stoppage. All-time bad stoppage, at least on Contender Series. They were in the corner right at the end of the round. The guy his opponent wasn't exactly moving all of that much, but the moment that the ref stepped in to stop it, clearly there was no tap, there was nothing. He was completely fine. Where's your head at here? He seems to like to get it to the ground. He likes to use his jiu-jitsu, at least from that fight, to win fights. Is he going to be able to do that against Silva? I don't know.
Okay, so first and foremost, he's a legit wrestler. Like, his wrestling is pretty solid, and that was supposed to carry him through as a very young prospect. So he actually fought in the Contender Series the first time around back in 2017. He's like 21 years old when he fought in Contender Series, and they gave him Joby Sanchez. So Joby Sanchez is a UFC veteran at the time, and he's also a guy that wrestled out of New Mexico, D1. Good wrestler, got some experience, got some tools to his game. JP Buys is they don't even give you the odds. But anyways, he was the favorite over Joby Sanchez in that spot, and Joby Sanchez just went on there and put on a veteran-type licking on him, stopped the takedowns, took him down, and grappled him, pounded him via ground and pound. The difference between 21 to 24, which is where you see him now, is a big difference, big learning experience, but he hasn't really tested himself all that much. So he went to EFC Africa. You and I have discussed this on many occasions. And in EFC, he's beaten Philip Roach, Luke Tango Biko, beats them, no problem, lower level. Fought for Brave FC, fought for LFA, lower level guys, beats them, no problem. Coming in here and taking on Bruno Silva, winnable fight for him. I think he's got the wrestling to go out there and take down Bruno Silva. I think he could, control him a little bit. As far as his striking goes, he likes to back up his opponent. He's got better output than Bruno Silva. But honestly, the thing with Bruno Silva is he could win all these fights he's losing. It's like one little tad issue here or a little tad issue there costs him. But he's due for a win, man. He's too talented. And I said this last week with Jinyu Frey. This girl's too talented to go 0-3 in the UFC and fan out. And what happens? She ends up going in and winning. I didn't back her. But looking at Bruno Silva, it's the same thing. The Khalid Taha fight, right? He gives a pretty good account of himself. He goes out there, he scores 2 takedowns over Taha. But, he gets tired a little bit. He gets physically outmatched a little bit. He gets submitted by Taha. But Taha ends up going in, testing positive for USADA. No contest. Guy was on the gear. It's a no contest. So even though Bruno Silva took him down twice, looked good in spots, got a no contest out of it, there's at least moments. Then you go to the David Dvorak fight. He scores 3 takedowns over David Dvorak. It's 1-1 going into the third. He gets a little bit tired. He loses the third. He loses the fight. Okay. Won a round over David Dvorak, who's a decent little prospect in the UFC right now. And then that last fight against Tagir Ulanbekov. Ulanbekov is the man. I'm really high up on this kid. Long, rangy, great wrestling. Been wrestling with Khabib Nurmagomedov in the mountains of Dagestan since he was like 14 years old. Khabib calls him his cousin.
It was no easy walk in the park for him.
It was a fucking sweat, man. And Bruno took him down. Now get this. Bruno took down Khalid Taha twice, debut. Then he takes down David Dvorak 3 times. Then he took down Tagir Ulanbekov 4 times in that fight. And I rewatched it and I felt the same way as when I watched it live. It was a sweat. It was way closer than you would have wanted it to be. Ulanbekov is supposed to be this highly touted prospect, and yet this guy made him work. And so he's a training partner of Henry Cejudo. He's a training partner of the Pitbull brothers from Bellator, Patricky and Patricio. And whereas people may be sleeping on Fight Ready a little bit, Eric Anders looked way better his last fight. I mean, he got DQ'd. He didn't get DQ'd as a no contest due to the illegal knee, but he just did this one camp at Fight Ready. And my God, he looked big time improved. I really do think that Bruno Silva has all the skills. He can wrestle. His striking is It's a little one-dimensional. He has decent power. He doesn't have enough output at flyweight. It's hard to knock these guys out, so it's a bit of an issue. But, it's serviceable. It's good. It's powerful. And I think that he might have a slight striking advantage over JP Buys. His takedown defense, Ulanbekov took him down 5 times, but he scrambled, and he got back up, and he worked. And Ulanbekov is supposed to be one hell of a wrestler. So even though JP Buys coming out of South Africa is a good wrestler, if he doesn't take Bruno Silva down, Bruno's game. And if Bruno flips the script and takes JP down, it's a big-time game changer. He's live. This is not a card where I've been backing a ton of underdogs, even though I think a lot of them have a very solid chance. But I think Bruno Silva I don't think this guy goes... Again, he's got a draw against Casey Kinney on the regional scene. Mm-hmm. He's got fights with David Dvorak and Tagir Ulanbekov.
Just such a higher level of competition at this point in his career. He's a lot more ready.
And he's struggled against that level. Whereas you look at JP Buys, he's beaten a very low level that Bruno would have beaten.
Last fight, he didn't even really win.
And so this is alternate dimension shit.
That's why it went from 170 down to 125.
Well, it flipped both ways. It didn't flip all the way both ways.
Did it open up the other side?
No, it didn't open up the other side, but it went way up and then it came way down. Let me just see exactly what the line movement was. Where did they list this? Okay. It opened minus 170. It dropped to it's not saying. Anyways, regardless.
You're looking at it backwards. It opened at 170. People bet it down to 250. Now it's back down to 150.
So it opens, there you go. It opens at 170. It gets bet down to all the way to 250 JP Buys. And then it's come back the other way. Now we're at minus 145.
It's going to go off as a pick,
right?
Based on what's been going on.
Money's gone both ways. Now I think with JP, it's his wife Cheyenne Buys is on the main card, and they got that dynamic, and they've brought in Bruno Silva, who's effectively 0-3, although his record will tell you 0-2 with a no contest. He did lose all 3 fights in the UFC. What I'm getting at is alternate dimension. One of the judges in the Ulanbekov fight gave him the first round. And one of the judges in the Ulanbekov fight gave him the third round. But otherwise, he lost 30-27, 29-28. Alternate dimension, if you gave him the first and the third round, he could have won that fight. And all I'm saying here is that he was competitive versus a guy who I really like. JP Buys, I don't care too much from. If Bruno Silva goes out there and is competitive against this guy, he can make it work for himself. So I think I'm going to take the over. And if Bruno's going to win, it's going to be by decision. He's a grind. So I like that over 2.5 minus 170.
Plus fight goes the distance. That's plus 300, by the way.
I hope Bruno wins so that Cheyenne Buys
Parlay
is
together.
having a bad time.
I like where your head's at.
No, so that Cheyenne Buys is having a bad time, upset. Oh,
You're right.
My husband ended up losing. Oh, I'm going to lose to this girl with the neck tat. Boom. I win money. That's where I'm at.
You can't fade the neck tat, dude. It's a real thing. Unless it's like Andre Field.
Has there ever been a situation where we've had a husband and wife on a UFC card together?
I don't think so. I don't think so. The first time sisters.
It may have happened in Bellator with Gilbert and Kerry Melendez.
Yeah, I don't know if they ever did that. Yeah, I mean, you know what? Bellator tries to beat you to the first time this happened, but ultimately, if you're looking for it on a UFC standpoint, I don't think a husband and wife combo was ever fought. You've got JP opening the card, and then Cheyenne is opening the main card.
Mm-hmm.
So is he going to be in her corner? If he gets dusted, is he going to be in her corner? Who knows? Bruno Silva's not dusting anybody, but he could win 2 of the 3 rounds. That's what I'm aiming for, is that he picks up a decision. Like Pat mentioned, plus 300. Okay, now that I'll reconsider that, I would much rather take Bruno Silva by decision than him straight up at 125. He's a grind, man. That's what he's going to do. If he's going to win this fight, it's going to be keep it competitive in the striking, maybe slight advantage, and then score a takedown or 2. Mm-hmm. JP Buys is a good wrestler. This takedown defense is a little lackluster, so... We'll go Bruno on a card that I am siding with a lot of these favorites. You guys all know how it happens. These dogs end up coming through and shitting in the pie. But as far as a dog standpoint, I'll take one here, Bruno.
All right, we're just about out of time. But before we go, hit him with the PRP.
Okay, we're going to go with Kevin Holland. We're going to go with Greg Gillespie, Adrian Yanez, Max Griffin, Cheyenne Buys, Macy Chaisson, Grant Dawson, Trevin Giles, dog number 1, Montel Jackson, Julia Avila, and Bruno Silva, dog number 2.
I mean, Tuivasa's in the
miss
mix.
Tuivasa, and I have him as well, right? So it doesn't change the fact that we're rolling with currently only 2 underdogs. It seems like consensus is a lot of these favorites as well. I would admit there's a lot of live dogs in these spots. I think it's going to be a favorite heavy card.
All right. That is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For Cody Saftic and Prop Bet Pat, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.